In what has become yet another heartwarming, endearing, and genuinely touching glimpse into the close father-son relationship between Scott Dissick and his youngest child, the 42-year-old reality television personality, entrepreneur, and devoted father of three, who has spent nearly 2 decades in the public eye as part of the Kardashian family orbit through his long-term on-and-off relationship with Kourtney Kardashian that produced 3 children and countless memorable moments on their family's various reality television shows, has shared an adorable, entertaining, and personality-filled photograph of his 10-year-old son, Rain, on social media that shows the young boy still very much in his spooky era and continuing to celebrate Halloween vibes and creepy aesthetics well after the actual holiday has passed, demonstrating the kind of creative expression, individual personality, and unique style that Scott has consistently encouraged and supported in all 3 of his children as they grow up navigating the unusual experience of being part of one of the most famous, photographed, and scrutinized families in contemporary American entertainment and popular culture. A warm welcome to Celebrity Gossip. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss the latest updates and hot gossip on the Kardashians and your favorite celebrities. On Monday, November 10th, Scott Dissick took to his Instagram account, where he maintains a significant following of millions of fans, followers, and curious observers who are interested in seeing updates about his life, his children, his co-parenting relationship with his ex-partner, Kourtney Kardashian Barker, his various business ventures, and his personal journey of growth, transformation, and self-improvement after years of struggling with substance abuse issues, relationship challenges, and the difficult process of finding his identity and purpose beyond his role as Kourtney's partner and as a supporting character in the Kardashian family's reality television empire, to share a particularly striking, memorable, and visually impressive snap of his son Rain with his face covered in elaborate black and white face paint that created a dramatic, spooky, and undeniably cool aesthetic that clearly demonstrates the young boy's interest in creative self-expression, alternative styles, and perhaps darker or more gothic-influenced visual aesthetics. In the photograph that Scott shared with his followers, accompanied by a loving caption that revealed his obvious affection, pride, and genuine appreciation for his youngest son's personality and individuality, the 10-year-old Rain can be seen sporting a remarkably serious and straight facial expression, as black paint covers his eyes and mouth with an intricate dripping design that creates a melting or bleeding effect that adds to the overall spooky, unsettling, and deliberately creepy appearance, while the rest of his face is covered in stark white paint that provides dramatic contrast and completes the entire look in a way that demonstrates either considerable skill in face painting application or at least access to talented makeup artists who could help achieve this impressive visual effect. The elaborate and carefully executed face paint that Rain was wearing in the photograph appears to be connected to or inspired by his family's The Nightmare Before Christmas themed Halloween costume, the beloved Tim Burton animated film that has become a cultural phenomenon and perennial favorite for people who appreciate darker aesthetics, gothic imagery, and stories that blend elements of Halloween spookiness with Christmas themes in unexpected and creative ways, which would perfectly match and coordinate with the epic, elaborate, and widely publicized look that his mother, Kourtney Kardashian Barker, and his stepfather, Travis Barker, the legendary drummer for the punk rock band Blink-182, who married Kourtney in multiple ceremonies throughout 2022 and has become a significant presence in Rain's life as well, as in the lives of his older siblings, wore for their own Halloween celebrations this year. Scott wrote in the caption accompanying the photograph of his uniquely styled son, using one of the affectionate nicknames that he has developed for Rain over the years as part of their close father-son bond and the playful, loving dynamic that clearly exists between them, that this was Raybo, also known as Young Spooky, and that he loves this guy too much, adding a red heart emoji to emphasize the genuine affection, parental pride, and deep emotional connection that he feels toward his youngest child, who has grown from a baby born in December of 2014 into a personality-filled, creative, and increasingly independent 10-year-old boy with his own interests, preferences, and distinctive sense of style. Scott Dissick shares his 3 children, including 12-year-old daughter Penelope, 15-year-old son Mason, and 10-year-old son Rain, with his ex-partner Kourtney Kardashian Barker. And despite the fact that their romantic relationship ended years ago, and Kourtney has since married Travis Barker and had another child, a son named Rocky, who was born in November of 2023, Scott and Kourtney have maintained what appears to be a respectful, functional, and child-focused co-parenting relationship that prioritizes the well-being, stability, and emotional health of their 3 shared children, above any lingering hurt feelings, unresolved conflicts, or personal complications that might have resulted from their lengthy and often tumultuous romantic relationship that played out publicly on television for millions of viewers to watch, judge, and comment upon. On a previous episode of Khloe Kardashian's podcast called Khloe in Wonderland, which has become a platform for the youngest Kardashian sister to have candid, revealing, and often surprisingly deep conversations with family members, friends, and various guests about topics ranging from relationships and parenting to personal growth and the challenges of living life in the public eye, Scott Dissick and Khloe Kardashian had an extensive and revealing conversation about their approaches to dating, their priorities as parents, and their shared philosophy about how to navigate romantic relationships while raising children who have already experienced family disruption, parental separation, and the introduction of new partners and step-parents into their lives. During that illuminating podcast conversation, Khloe asked Scott Dissick directly and specifically about how he approaches dating around his kids, whether he keeps his romantic life completely separate from his parenting responsibilities, whether he discusses dating with his children, and whether his kids, who are now getting older and presumably more aware of adult relationships and their father's dating life or lack thereof, ask him questions about his dating life or express opinions about whether they would like him to have a girlfriend or eventual new wife. Scott responded to Khloe's questions with remarkable honesty, vulnerability, and thoughtfulness, explaining that his children do indeed ask him about his romantic life and that they have expressed to him that they would actually like him to be with somebody, which might seem surprising given that children of divorce or separation often struggle with the idea of their parents dating new people or forming new romantic partnerships that could potentially disrupt the family dynamics or create new complications in relationships that are already complicated enough. However, Scott explained that despite his children expressing interest in him finding someone and not wanting him to be alone indefinitely, he has told them that until he finds the right person, someone who represents a truly serious, committed, and long-term partnership rather than just a casual dating situation or temporary romantic involvement, he does not really want to bring another person around them or integrate a new romantic partner into their family dynamic unless that person is what he described as the end-all be-all person, meaning someone he could genuinely see himself spending the rest of his life with, and who would therefore be worth introducing to his children and allowing them to form attachments to. Scott elaborated on his reasoning for this cautious and protective approach to dating and introducing romantic partners to his children, explaining that he does not want his kids to get attached to somebody else, form emotional bonds with a girlfriend who might not end up being a permanent part of their lives, and then experience the pain, disappointment, and sense of loss that would inevitably come if that relationship ended and that person disappeared from their lives, which would represent yet another experience of instability, loss, and disrupted attachment for children who have already had to navigate their parents' separation and their mother's remarriage. At the same time, Scott acknowledged with admirable self-awareness that he also has to do his thing too, meaning that he can't completely put his romantic life on hold indefinitely, or he will never meet anyone and will never have the opportunity to find a serious long-term partner who could eventually become a meaningful presence in both his life and his children's lives once they are ready for that kind of relationship. Scott emphasized that right now, in this current phase of his life and his children's development, he genuinely likes the fact that his focus is on them, that he is prioritizing their needs, their emotional well-being, their activities, and their development above his own romantic desires or needs for adult companionship, and that if he was with somebody else in a serious, committed relationship, he would still be a good dad and would still love his children and be present for them, but he would inevitably have somebody that he would be putting on a pedestal near them, meaning that his attention, emotional energy, and priorities would necessarily be divided between his children and his romantic partner in ways that might ultimately shortchange his kids during these critical years.